Hello everybody! I'm remaking this video since the MonoGame website has changed. This will be a quick tutorial on how to get set up in MonoGame using Visual Studio. MonoGame is a framework and a library. It allows you to use C# and .NET to be able to make games that can be deployed cross-platform. These steps are going to be pretty simple, and once you're done with this video, I've made other tutorials on how to use MonoGame as well, including other tools like Gum that can be used to make your UI for MonoGame. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the updated documentation site on how to get started. So if you go to monogame.net, click on Learn. From here, we're going to go straight down here to the Documentation Hub. If you want to do the full 2D tutorial, you can do that here. I'm just going to show you where the documentation steps are though. You can click on Let's Get Started. And then if we scroll past the supported platforms, we can see that it talks about the operating system, your IDE, and other steps in the process for more advanced things. I'm going to be using Windows and Visual Studio. You can use whatever you like. Now these steps are a lot more in depth. I've got the shortcuts over here on the right. This is what we're going to be following. First thing we need to do is install Visual Studio 2022. So click on this link. Alternatively, you can just search for Visual Studio 2022. We're going to download the community version here. Notice that it downloads Visual Studio Setup. If you run this and continue through the installation of the installer, once that's done, you're going to be in this section where you can pick different parts of Visual Studio or add-ons to Visual Studio. We're going to install the .NET Desktop development component right here. That will put you up to somewhere close to 8 gigabytes. Not that much space anymore, but still make sure you have 8 gigabytes available. Click Install. I'm going to pause the video while it downloads and installs. I'm unpausing just to show you that it might take a bit for it to finish. After the download completes, it still has to install all the packages that were downloaded. Pausing again. Finishing up with the installation now. Pausing again. At this point, we're just going to skip and add accounts later for the sign-in. Choose your mode. I'm going to say dark mode. Now we need to install MonoGame in Visual Studio. Let's go ahead and continue without code. Here we can just go to Extensions, Manage Extensions. Under here, under this browse, we're just going to search for MonoGame. Here we can see MonoGame Framework C# project templates. We want to install these. Now, as you see, it says that we need to close Visual Studio for these downloaded components to be, or extensions to be installed. So I'm going to click the X, let it go ahead and install those. I also don't need the Visual Studio installer open anymore. I'm going to click Modify here for the installation of these templates. Wait for them to install. Okay, now it's installed. I'm going to hit Close. And we can now open up Visual Studio again. Visual Studio 2022. All right, so now let's build a new project. So we're going to create a new project. When it loads up, we're going to type MonoGame at the top, so we can sort it only by the projects that we care about. And from here, we're looking for the MonoGame Cross-Platform desktop application. This is the template that we're going to use. Save it somewhere. I usually save things in cgit because I use the Git version control system. Name it whatever you want. And hit Create. Now that it's loaded, we can take a look around the project. So first I'm going to click this X to close that, close what's new. Clicking this green play button will compile your code, and then it will run the compiled executable so you can take a look at it. Doesn't do anything yet, but we know that it's working because we didn't have any errors and we see this blue screen. We can stop it. Now let me give you a walkthrough of a basic MonoGame project. What we've got here is the content directory. This is where you'll put all of your images. We've got the program.cs. This is the entry point to your program. And then we've got your game1.cs. And this is where you'll be putting some of your base logic. And this is where the main loop of the game is. Zoomed in a little bit here for you. We can see that at the top of the project, we've got a namespace that will match whatever you typed when you created your project. You also see things like Microsoft.xna.framework. And if you go to the website and you look at the history of MonoGame, you'll see that MonoGame was born from the Microsoft XNA project and library. In your Game 1 class, there are 3 main sections within most MonoGame projects. You have your initialize, or I guess 4. You have your load content, update, and then draw. You can put anything in the initialize that you might want to do before loading content. Once you've done all of your initialization logic, then you'll put loading content, that's images, text, 3D objects, whatever it is that you're trying to load, you'll do that here in load content. And then there's 2 main parts of the game loop after that, the update and then the draw. The update section is where you'd put logic for updating your character's positions or any projectiles that are in your game. Also, any UI updates, user interface updates that you'd have would go here. Any input from the controller, that would all go in this update call. Down here under draw, this is where you put the code that will draw your scene, draw your screen, whatever entities or UI you need to draw, that will go down here. That's really about it for MonoGame. Go to monogame.net for further details on how to use MonoGame. Check out my other videos on MonoGame and the GUM UI tool. Thanks for watching.